Summer, 1876. America celebrated its centennial, but far from the parades, a disaster unfolded on the Montana plains. News arrived slowly. The U.S. 7th Cavalry, led by the famed George Armstrong Custer, had been wiped out. Custer, the boy general of Civil War fame, was gone. The nation was stunned. This wasn't just a military loss, it was a blow to American pride. How could a modern army fall to those they called savages? The answer forced the country to face the reality of westward expansion. It was a violent collision of worlds. The story became legend, Custer's last stand, immortalized in newspapers, paintings, and films. But the myth told only half the story. It rarely explained why the battle happened, or told it from the victor's side. For the Lakota Sioux, Cheyenne, and Arapaho, it was the Battle of the Greasy Grass, a moment of triumph. They defended their families and land against invasion, pushing back with a force that shocked the nation. The battle was complex, tragic, and rooted in years of injustice. It was a story of courage on both sides, but also of misunderstanding. The myth of Custer's last stand overshadowed the real reasons for the fight. For Native warriors, it was a defense of home, not a last stand. Their victory was a rare moment of hope in a long struggle. The shock of Little Bighorn would echo for generations. It forced America to confront the cost of its expansion. The plains ran red and the nation's destiny was forever changed. The true story was just beginning. The roots of Little Bighorn lay in broken promises. In 1868, the U.S. signed the Treaty of Fort Laramie, granting the Lakota the Great Sioux Reservation, including the sacred Black Hills. The treaty promised the land, as long as the grass shall grow. But gold rumors soon spread. In 1874, Custer himself led an expedition to confirm them. His report, Gold from the Grassroots Down, ignited a gold rush. Prospectors flooded the Black Hills, ignoring the treaty. The army did little to stop them. The government tried to buy the land, but the Lakota refused. It was their spiritual center. Selling it was unthinkable. When negotiations failed, the government issued an ultimatum: all Lakota and Cheyenne outside the reservation must report in by January 31, 1876. It was winter. Travel was deadly. Many couldn't comply. The government labeled them hostiles and sent the army to force them in. The stage was set for war. The Black Hills, sacred to the Lakota, became the flashpoint. The U.S. broke its word, and the tribes prepared to defend what was theirs. The coming battle was about more than land. It was about survival. The government's betrayal would lead directly to the clash at Little Bighorn. The promise of peace was shattered by greed. The Lakota's refusal to sell their sacred land was a stand for dignity. The army's response would be swift and violent. The countdown to conflict had begun. The fate of the plains would be decided in blood. At the heart of the army's plan was George Armstrong Custer, brave, reckless, and hungry for glory. Once a Civil War hero, Custer now sought redemption and perhaps a path to the presidency. He was given command of the 7th Cavalry, tasked with forcing the hostiles onto reservations. Custer's orders: find the main native village and wait for reinforcements. But patience wasn't in his nature. Scouts soon reported a massive village, far larger than expected. Crow and Arikara scouts warned attacking would be suicide. Custer ignored them, fearing the village would scatter if he waited. Driven by ambition, he underestimated his enemy. He divided his command, Benteen to the south, Reno to attack the village's southern end, and Custer himself leading 5 companies north. This split left his forces vulnerable. Custer believed the village was smaller and ready to flee. He was wrong. The native warriors would stand and fight, united and determined. Custer's gamble would prove fatal. His quest for glory blinded him to the reality on the ground. The 7th Cavalry rode into a trap of their own making. The stage was set for disaster. Custer's final gamble would become legend. For all the wrong reasons, the fate of his men was sealed. While Custer plotted, thousands of Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho gathered in the Little Bighorn Valley. It was their annual summer encampment, a time for ceremony, hunting, and community. But this year, unity was driven by a common threat: relentless U.S. pressure. They were tired of broken treaties and displacement. 2 leaders inspired them: Sitting Bull, the spiritual guide, and Crazy Horse, the fearless war chief. Sitting Bull's vision during the Sundance foretold victory if they stood their ground. Crazy Horse's tactics and courage rallied the warriors. Together, they embodied the heart and soul of resistance. The village swelled to perhaps 7,000 people, with 2,000 warriors. They gathered not for war, but to live as they always had: hunting, celebrating, and being with family. They had no idea Custer was near. The peace of the valley was about to be shattered. The largest native gathering on the plains became the center of history. Their unity would be tested in the coming storm. The fate of their way of life hung in the balance. The warriors prepared, inspired by vision and necessity. The coming battle would define generations. The valley was quiet, just before the thunder. The world was about to change. The attack came suddenly on June 25th. Reno's men charged the southern end of the village, causing panic, but the warriors quickly rallied. Led by chiefs like Gall, they overwhelmed Reno, forcing a desperate retreat to the bluffs. Meanwhile, Custer rode north, finally seeing the village's true size, and his mistake. He sent a frantic message to Benteen. "Come on, big village, be quick!" It was too late. Custer and his men were isolated. Warriors, led by Crazy Horse, surged out, surrounding Custer's companies. The soldiers were outnumbered and outmaneuvered. Native tactics, using the terrain, firing from cover, were devastating. The final stand took place on a slope now called Last Stand Hill. Custer and his men fought desperately but were overwhelmed. In less than an hour, over 200 soldiers lay dead. The dust settled on a scene of carnage. Sitting Bull's vision had come true. The Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho had won a stunning victory. The battle was over, but its impact was just beginning. The greasy grass ran red, and history was made. The myth of invincibility was shattered. The world would never see the plains the same way again. News of the disaster reached the east just after the centennial celebrations. Custer, the national hero, was dead, his command annihilated. At first, many refused to believe it, but shock soon turned to outrage. Newspapers called it a massacre, painting Custer as a martyr. The public demanded revenge. The defeat shattered America's sense of superiority and manifest destiny. The government's response was swift and harsh. More troops flooded the plains. Food and supplies were cut off to force the tribe's surrender. The message resistance would be crushed. The victory at Little Bighorn awakened a vengeful nation. The army hunted the tribes relentlessly. Villages were destroyed, pony herds captured. Starvation and exhaustion forced surrender. The unity of the tribes began to fracture under pressure. The will to fight faded as survival became impossible. The army was determined. There would never be another Little Bighorn. The triumph at Little Bighorn was brief. The U.S. government responded with overwhelming force. The Great Sioux War intensified, targeting not just warriors, but food, shelter, and horses. Within a year, the old way of life was gone. Crazy Horse surrendered in 1877, then was killed in custody. Sitting Bull fled to Canada, but starvation forced his surrender. The Black Hills were seized, treaties broken. The tribes were confined to reservations, their culture suppressed. Children were sent to boarding schools, traditions were outlawed. The buffalo, their lifeblood, vanished. Dependence and despair replaced freedom. The Battle of the Little Bighorn was their last great stand. After that, the plains fell silent. Today, the Battle of the Little Bighorn is still debated. For years, only Custer's story was told. Native voices were silenced, but that's changing. Descendants and historians now share the full story of broken treaties, lost lands, and resistance. The battle's name itself is reclaimed, the Battle of the Greasy Grass. In 1991, the site was renamed Little Bighorn Battlefield National Monument. A new memorial honors Native warriors. Its theme, peace through unity. The story now recognizes courage on both sides. The battle is a symbol of resistance, tragedy, and the cost of ambition. The hills are sacred ground, a place of sorrow and pride. They remind us of a painful past and the need for understanding. The echoes of Little Bighorn call for reconciliation. The true story is still being written. The journey toward healing continues.